Hello, BookTube, and I'm here for a tag. I was searching around yesterday, and I found that someone's done a horror book tag. So I thought, well, yeah, tis the season, and this is done by. Looks like this is the original by fwiendyreads or fwiendyreads. I'm not sure how they pronounce that, but there are 12 questions. Excuse me. And I want to start out though because I'll do this. What I found there's another tag that's on a different genre that I need to clarify from where I come from. Horror to me is it has to have a supernatural element to it, and not just that. It can't then turn into a slasher film. Somebody's going out and just killing people. That's not horror. That's not horror to me. That may be horrific. Many things are horrific, but it's not horror. And just having a supernatural start, and then that's where it just goes, is just tag the supernatural on, and then have someone, just going out slaughtering people. It's not horror. It has to have and I repeat, a supernatural element to it. So let's get to the questions. Number one, how and when did you get into horror? I don't know exactly when, but it would have been from watching things like Dracula and other sort of silent or horror related films when I was a child. And I saw Frankenstein as well. But Frankenstein's not horror, that's science fiction. So we'll leave that out of the mix here. So I don't know exactly. Probably before I was 10 years old, I would say. And what was the first horror book that you read? The first one that I remember getting it was through the school project where you'd buy things, and it was a book called Some Canadian Ghosts. I don't think they were meant to be fictional. They were meant to be real stories of ghosts, but I read it as fiction. And I believe that was the first one. And then I remember at some point getting the Amityville Horror in a book club edition, and reading that, and then watching the film. Um, there were other ones. Oh yes, yeah. I remember getting the Fontana ghost story books, or buying some of those, and I really enjoyed those. And I've mentioned them already before. They'd be nice to get, but they're very hard to find. Number three, what horror related goodness can we expect from your channel? Well, none really, because I don't particularly do horror as a mainstay. I just read it, sort of more or less read it through October every year now. Unless you want to just say that this is horrific. So watching me is horrific to begin with, but that's about it. Number four, do you have any favorite themes or subgenres within horror? Definitely ghosts is my mainstay. And particularly short story, uh, ghost short stories, not full length novels, because I find a lot of times the novels they lose their way throughout. But I'm sure there's notable ones that haven't, because there are a couple film. Well, there's a film I really like is The Haunting, and that's based on Shirley Jackson's book, and I have not read that yet, so I have high hopes of that. I remember reading Peter Straub's Ghost Story and seeing the film, and I liked both, so that worked. So yeah, and I don't know what else, like other themes of horror. The ghosts. I do read other horror material, like mostly late 19th century, early 20th century type horror is sort of what I read. I don't really read anything modern, but I am branching it. Excuse me. I am branching out to modern sort of written ghost stories, because it's kind of hard now to find stuff published from either Victorian or Edwardian that I haven't read already. But I do reread a lot of it, so I enjoy that. Um, Name an underrated horror novel or author. I couldn't think of novel, and I couldn't for a while think of author, but because every author I thought of is well known pretty well, unless I'm sure there's some short stories that I've read that I really liked, and I just can't recollect the author's name. But I don't think they're an author. I mean, a horror author to begin with. It may be one or two stories they've written. But there are a couple writers that did write quite a bit of sort of gothic slash horror stuff. One is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He's written some ghost stories as well. He's obviously really known for Sherlock Holmes, or if people don't like him for Sherlock Holmes, they usually read him for the Professor Challenger novels. Or if they don't like that, they read him for his romances, historical romances. And if they don't like all those three, they may go into the spiritual aspect of him that he's written quite a bit of. So, but the horror type, gothic and ghosts seem to slip through the woodwork for him, and I think he's definitely good. And another one is Elizabeth Gaskell, who's she's known for like Mary Barton and a few others, but like the Here's a Collection is Tales of Mystery and Macabre by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is done by Wordsworth Classics, so it's very, very cheap. You can pick this up, like the full price of it should only be like £2.99. So if you're in the UK, you can order it from most places for even less than that. And it's, again, I think it's not that she's unknown, but unknown in the genre of horror. Now where are we here? Name an overrated horror novel or author. Stephen King. Simple as that. I know he's extremely popular, but he's bloated. I just find meandering, and I just that's why I think horror works better. It really works better for me in short stories. It's one genre, and every other genre I can read short stories and full novels and enjoy both. But I think it's really getting down to very few horror novels I actually like. Um, I don't know how to analyze that anymore, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. And number 8, recommend a book for someone who is new to the genre. Oh, wait a minute. No, recommend 3 of your favorite horror novels. Well, as I say, I don't have novels to go from. So let's go from something else, like collections and stuff. And I'll reuse one of these. This here, Victorian Ghost Stories by, it's edited by Michael Cox and R.A. Gilbert. It's Oxford Anthology. And it's exactly what the tin says. It is Victorian Ghost Stories. It is almost 500 pages, and they're all fabulous. Like even the weakest ones are really, really well done. And I can't reach it here, but the other one would be. I was gonna use this for another prompt too, I think, but we'll see. Would be Edgar Allan Poe, the collected story. So he only did one novel anyway. I'm still working my way through Poe because there was 2 writers, I told myself once upon a time in the dim days of early Sean. Sherlock Holmes stories and Edgar Allan Poe stories. I did not want to rush through them and have nothing else to read. No new, like Conan Doyle Sherlock Holmes. And the same with Poe. I've kept that true for Poe. I do add 1 or 2 every so often. Sherlock Holmes, I destroyed that when I when I moved to Bedford here, and I didn't have any books. I was just starting work again, and then I found the library was really really bad. But they did have two collections of the complete stories and the four novels of Sherlock Holmes. So I took those out and read them all the way through, and that destroyed that. They did. I would have done it with probably Poe, but they didn't have it on the shelf. So Poe escaped that. So therefore, I didn't do that. Oh, and the other one would be sort of the collected short stories of M.R. James. That would be a new one to my list. Um, Recommended a book for someone who is new to the genre. That's where I was going to reuse any one of these. There's three I'm going to show you here, and I'm sticking with Ghost. I think. Well, no. Well, anyway, we'll stick with this. The Ghost ones, the Oxford anthology. This is Victorian ghost stories, and there's just Oxford Book of English Ghost Stories, edited as well by Michael Cox and R.A. Gilbert. And then they did, oh, just Michael Cox did 20th century ghost stories. And then for more general, and I would just go back to this. So I'm using the same ones, but they're not novels, so I'll get away with that hopefully. Are there any book to film adaptations you particularly loved or hated? Um, don't know about hated so much. And well, it's there's nothing really hated or loved. Like I say, I have not read the Shirley Jackson, so and I really liked The Haunting, and then I actually enjoyed the remake as well. It was a bit flat, but the remake was okay. Um, Another one which I haven't read either is Henry James's Turn of the Screw, which The Innocents, which I thoroughly love that film. There's only a few horror films that I really, really like. I just don't think they do horror or ghost films well, and they're very, especially ghost films. There's very few that I really like. I mentioned Amityville Horror earlier. I didn't really care that as a book nor a film, and because it's a novel, maybe, and that's why I didn't really enjoy it. It just went on too long. Uh, yeah, The Innocents, and then there was sort of what was the name of it now? With Nicole Kidman, it was sort of. I think it was sort of based on The Innocents to a certain extent. The others. I think it was called The Others, and that was pretty good. Another one that was quite good was a Guillermo del Toro film set in the Spanish War. It was called. Uh, Set in an orphanage. It was called Orphans or something like that. But anyway, that I kind of liked. It was ghost story element to that. But again, like I haven't read some of these, so it's hard to tell. But I have read Dracula several times. Um, I don't know. It's hard to say because each film does different things, and I enjoy. Well, not everyone. I like Nosferatu by F.W. Murnau for its things, and I love Todd Browning's Dracula with Bela Lugosi, and I also like the Fisher one with Christopher Lee for Hammer Films. And I always enjoy the other ones. The one that people really go crazy about was it Francis Ford Coppola's um, Dracula. I just found it very very flat. There were good things in it, yes, yes, there was good things, but I just didn't enjoy it as a film at all. Um, and I can't because I do watch horror films and I do like them, but most of the time I've never read the book, and I do enjoy there are adaptations of Edgar Allan Poe. Roger Corman directed a number, about seven or eight, in the '60s. Most of them had Vincent Price on. Those I love. Those are fabulous. Uh, and they're different from the stories, but they're just fabulous. And then in the Universal did a couple with Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, the Raven and the Black Cat. I think those are fabulous too, but barely any resemblance to Poe. So yeah, and then there are a lot of other sort of silent ones and other films, but I just can't think of. Um, I can't think of one that I've read and seen the film that I would say that I really liked or disliked. So, and as I said, I guess the most would be the Dracula, the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula would probably be my least favorite of them all. So, but I wouldn't say I hated it so much. Um, oh, yeah. So I've answered that. Yeah, either film adaptation particularly loved or hated. So yeah. Number 10. How do you discover new or new to you horror books? That's a little difficult. I start like there's a lot of non-ghost related horror that was out in the late 19th century and early 20th century, which I haven't read. Like I haven't read all of H.P. Lovecraft. I've got his complete works here in a volume, uh, but I haven't read it all. I've only read bits and pieces of it. I'm not 100% fond of him. I know he has a huge following. I would have said possibly that as or added that to the overrated author as well, but that might be heresy. But uh, yeah, it's sort of word of mouth or reading something, and I like the introduction because if it's edited by someone nicely, a collection, or it's a new printing of something from the late late Victorian, early and Edwardian era. Usually, the editor or someone in the introduction will do a little bit of legwork and mention other authors. Oh, didn't know about that. Oh yes, I will have to check that. So that I really like, and also I read sort of the ghost, sort of nonfiction ghost stuff of it's what would you call it? It's like almost like literary criticism or cultural aspects of ghost stories. So I learn new things in there all the time when I read some. What is the last horror book you bought? So again, I'm going to be sticking to ghost stories, and I think this is one of the last one I bought, but I only got it today. It's the Channel Book of Ghost Stories. I showed it on the book haul today. It's not faded. I thought it might have been a little faded on the spine. I don't think so. But yeah, it's a nice hardcover. Um, Came out by Chatto and Windus in 1994, and this happens to be a first printing, which is nice. And it's edited by Jenny Uglow, who's a fabulous biographer and sort of historian. And I really like her stuff. And once I found out she did this, see, that's where I found this. I think I found it in an introduction to something else, which I never knew she did. So I had ordered it, and I was very, very pleased. I was pleased to get it today. I'm not sure if it'll be on my reading list immediately, but I got it at a good price, and I thought I'd take a chance, and I was pleased. So, uh, what is the last horror book you bought? That's that. What horror book is at the top of your wish list? I'm not sure. I don't know. Well, there's a few other because I used to get. Well, I suppose, yeah. Well, there's two things. I used to have like the Mammoth Book of whatever. So I've purchased a few now. Mammoth Book of ghost stories. These are 20th century ghost stories, and then a Mammoth Book of house hauntings. Um, and I think there's still a few others that I'd be interested in. Um, I would love to get the Fontana series of ghost stories. Those I would really like. Uh, but yeah, there's about nothing else on my wish list, but I know some of them that I'm not going to probably get. I just want just something popped in my mind. I just wanted to get back to because, as I said, I think a lot of people don't realize that um, um, Arthur Conan Doyle wrote horror in many ways. But if you remember, if people have read all of the Sherlock Holmes, there's the Sussex Vampire, which was had a horror sort of theme to it a little bit, and a few other stories had little bits and pieces with some supernatural aspects in it, which then he just took with other stories. But yeah, no, there's the horror book tag, and I don't know who else would want to do it. If anybody else does, because uh, I know the only person that I know, I think that's has come out is Jason at Byways in Bookland. Um, he reads a lot of horror, so he reads a lot of horror novels, and from what I can see, and more modern stuff, more recent stuff than I ever do. So he might be interested in doing it. If you do, Jason, feel free. But I know you're really busy. But I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head that would be interested in doing it. If you are, though, maybe maybe James Holder. I'm not sure if you read much in the way of horror. I know you read science fiction and fantasy, but but if you want to do it, go ahead. I'm not sort of tagging either of these specifically. It's sort of their I guess we would just say to gentle or no no what's I can't even think of the word now. But anyway, just sort of possible tags if anybody wants to do it because it is an interesting tag. Um, and you can, as I took it as I slanted it to my own way as I usually do. Anyway, have a good time, book two. I will speak to you later.